It may seem like when we come to satsang that there are two modes for us to live. And you've heard this, of course, in satsang. One is to live in the ego shadow, in the way of the head. So then it may feel like I can live one way, and then the other way is to live in the way of the heart, live in God's light. So it may feel like these are just modes that I live personally in two different ways. But actually, both of them are drastically different. They are not comparable with each other. Because when you let go and live in the way of the heart, then you are no longer around, you are no longer living this life. In any case, the you is presumed, it is not true. So, the words are not here yet for what I'm trying to convey, but I'm saying the immensity of the presence within you cannot be gauged in any empirical terms. You cannot say, my life will be 90% different if I go from the head to the heart. It will be unrecognizably different. Although outwardly, it may even seem the same. And that is the part that confuses us. We keep looking for outward change. But actually, it is just like, it is more than if you were to suddenly move from Earth to Mars or something. You see? Whereas we are trying to create a house within Earth itself, which looks a lot like Mars. Can't actually do that. You see? So when you let go inwardly and you live in the light of God's presence, then that life is different in such a unfathomable way. But the mind tries to make us into a spiritual person. That is its version of spirituality. It's still working on this side, you see, in the way of the head. Oh, if I'm spiritual, how should I behave? What should I do? What should I say? That is not it. That may look more and more like it outwardly, but truly that is not it. It's not just an inner transformation, it's a complete overhaul. It's a complete rebirth. So that is what is needed. And we cannot take any of our conditions, our favorite ideas, our notions, even our spiritual constructs. We have to undertake this movement, this almost like a teleportation, completely empty of all baggage. See, because the baggage cannot come with us. Like the teleportation device will do everything, but the bag will be left behind if you're lucky. You see, otherwise you won't go. Otherwise there'll be beep beep. No, too much baggage. You see? So we have to enter this teleportation hall, the presence of the Sadguru presence within yourself with a complete intention to be willing to lose everything. So, if you still can answer the question, if I ask you, what will you not give up for God? You can still say, then that is the baggage that I'm talking about. This doesn't mean that God will necessarily ask you to give anything up in your outer life. So I'm making this distinction between the outer life continuing to seem normal, if that is the case, where the chopping wood, fetching water type metaphor comes into place. Before enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water; after enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. But so, and I've also said or not, that is very important to say there, but also that if the author of this beautiful verse or koan or poem or whatever you want to call it included the transformation which was inwardly there, then he would have to say before enlightenment, whatever was there; after enlightenment, nothing. You see? So that will make it a very inelegant poem, but I'm just saying, it sounds very nice to say before enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water; after enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. But this can create a lot of confusion, you see? Because you just feel like, okay, so then I'm enlightened. I was chopping water, chopping wood, fetching water yesterday, and I'm doing that today also. And if you feel like the outer is all there is, then it can feel like then nothing has to change. And in a way, it is true. But really, your whole operating system has to change. The whole operating system has to change, where if you're operating from the way of the mind, that has to transform into operating from the way of the heart, and therefore living in God's will and God's light. So we go from a thought dictated life to a God dictated life. It is going to be a dictated life. This you better get used to. As long as there is anything left of me, it is going to be dictated by either mind or God. You see, till we come to that complete realization that there is nothing like me which is dictated. And yet, in everyone in this world, there will be that tiniest element of somebodyness which still remains. Our first guru called it the tanmatra of the ego. So the tiniest particle of the ego will still remain. So, as long as that is there, that one must come to a true servitude of God. And how do we know whether that one is still there? One is I'm telling you. Second is that even if there's an ouch, there's a like, don't want a dictated life. You see, that I is the one I'm talking about. You see, the one that has likes and dislikes, preferences, rights and wrongs, whatever. It may have become a tiniest sliver. You see? That is why even in Advaita Vedanta we have to say that actually it is Achinta Abheda Veda Abheda, which means that unfathomable non-difference, difference, or difference, non-difference. So although it is truly one, but there will always be an unfathomable non-difference, difference. And that's why that unfathomable is just helpful, because otherwise we can think ourselves silly thinking about this difference, non-difference. See, that's why the sages have said it's unfathomable, forget it. See, you will have an insight about this, but you will not be able to think about it. You see, and that is why the absolutism and the relativism always becomes at loggerheads in any type of satsang. You see, so somebody says, but that is from the absolute perspective. Another says, but that is from the relative. You see, and you try to create these categories, it just doesn't work. So both are true, that you are the highest within which all of consciousness itself is born. It is true, you are that. See? But it is also true that you are just a mere servant of God, if you are lucky. Which is more true? Can't think about it. There is no more or less. It varies moment to moment. So in one moment I can say, God arises within me. The light that shines within my own self, I am prior to that. I am that highest reality. And another moment I can say, what? I'm not even worthy of being God's toenail. And which is more true? You cannot say. So this is as far as we can go in terms of being able to articulate the insight. Of course, in the heart, even the notion of difference, non-difference, all of that, there's nothing, you don't have to. But as far as pointing goes, if somebody was to say, so what is your stand? Are you a Shuddh Advaitin, Keval Advaitin? Are you a Bheda? Are you a Abheda? Achinta Veda Veda is not what I am, but what is most comfortable for this expression to share. Somebody called me an Advaitin the other day and I said, am I? I don't know. We share Advaita. Do I? I don't know. I don't really know. I just share what seems natural to share in my heart, and my heart compels me in some way to share that. Now, mostly it may sound like that, but I don't know whether I'm a bhakta or a jnani or a what. I have no such category in which I can put myself. One category I'm very comfortable now in is to be a beggar servant. Among all these categories, I just feel like just a servant to God. And therefore, a servant to those who are truly seeking Him in their hearts. So, although I may be sitting up on this chair, mostly because I have some cramps, but really it is the other way around. And I'm not going to say that very often because I know the ego loves this kind of stuff. But really it's the other way around. If you're truly seeking God's light, then I will walk to the end of the earth for you. I will walk till whatever it takes for you. But if it's just an ego trip, then I may not even answer a question. So, what is the way in which we change this operating system, change this way of life? Go from a mind dictated life to a heart dictated life or a God dictated life. Let's contemplate for a moment and see whether there is a third way. Why can't I just live my life? Why does it have to be either mind dictated or God dictated? Yeah? Answer this question for yourselves. See what that could be. Is there a third way? So, if you have to go left or you have to go right, no, that is the usual metaphor for our life decisions. So, besides the mind's way or the heart's way, is there a third option? There isn't. So, to recognize this is important, that our life is not as complex as we make it out to be, either here or here. The way to be here usually is to not be here. To not be in the head is the way to be here. So, but those of us who now have a spiritual sort of leaning, like a spiritual persona, we don't want still a God dictated life. We want a God assisted life. What would be the difference? So it's quite stark for me. The difference is that in a God assisted life, I am setting the target. See, I am setting, I want this, I want to be free, I want enlightenment, I want to share Satsang, I want. And then we go, God, please, I want this, you please assist. You see? So we want a assistant for our goals, for our minds idea of what it would be, hopefully to be truly spiritual. So that can, the goal setting comes from the ego, you see, and then the pleading comes in the form of help me achieve that target. You see? So it's very much like the corporate workspace, you see, where Damo is given a target every quarter and then he has to plead with customers to, or used to have to plead with customers to help him achieve that target. So it's a very similar sort of notion. Versus a God dictated life would be what? Whatever comes. Yes, so I am empty. I am empty. Where do I have to go? I have not decided left or right. I'm not saying I have to go right. God, please help me. I'm completely open. I'm empty. And then one of two things can happen. One is that the presence itself is apparently moving the entire universe, which includes the movement of this body. But just to keep it simple, presence moves you. The second is that you hear the Sadguru voice in your heart. But for either of this to happen, we need to be empty. So open and empty is a prerequisite to everything I'm saying. So once we are empty of past, present, future, then what word should come from this mouth? I have no idea what the next sentence is, what direction any of this is going in, what I'm trying to say. I have no idea. But the heart speaks through this mouth, and that's why all of you come, because you don't come to hear the mind anymore. You're tired of that. So in from this openness, from this emptiness, the heart can move this body, your life, whatever you want to call your life. And just like guidance is coming apparently for others, it is also coming for whatever is left of me, and more so. So those who are sharing satsang should never come into any of this sort of pride that I am fully sorted. What I'm saying is just for that. It's just not true. It's just not true. So this is the difference between a God-assisted life and a God-dictated one. And we must really contemplate, look within ourselves, whether we are truly open to a God-dictated life. Does God-dictated still sound oppressive for some of us? Still sounds oppressive. But when you check the options, so it's either mind-dictated or God-dictated. So the oppressor is the snake, is the mind. The seller of limitation, the liar of individuality is the mind. That is the prison, that is the oppression, that is, you have come to satsang to seek freedom from that one. Because that one convinces you over and over again that you are a body mind, that you are an entity. Your heart leads you to your truths. The true reality of yourself, ultimately as Nirguna Brahman, can only be realized in the light of the Sadguru presence, which I'm calling the heart within you.